The UCF Knights and the Gus Bus are rolling their way into the Big 12 Conference, one of 4 new additions to the Big 12 Conference this season. This is the first one I am talking about on my channel. But the Knights, very, very successful throughout their American Athletic campaign. Made some New Year's Six bowl games, had some really, really good teams, and they've played with the power opponents before. So is this team ready to take on life in a power conference in the Big 12? Or is this going to be a team that's going to need to take some time to adjust to life in a Power 5 conference? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 133 FBS level college football teams this summer, which means I'm doing your favorite team. So hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when your favorite team gets uploaded. But there are more ways than that you can help me support my channel. You're doing one right now by watching the video, and you can do more by liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing. Really anything else you guys can think of to help me support my channel would mean a lot to me. Greatly appreciate whatever you guys are able to do. Now, let us take a look at the UCF Knights in 2023. Again, one of the many new additions to the Big 12 Conference in the 2023 season. Hey, how do preview predictions work on my channel? Glad you asked. Here's how we do things. We take a look at a roster overview, look at who the team lost, who's coming back, and who's coming in through the transfer portal and recruiting class, as well as taking a look at the 2023 Knights football schedule and giving it a game-by-game preview and prediction. So let's look at the UCF Knights in 2023 without further ado. Let's take a look at that roster, shall we? In the quarterback room, you do lose your second leading passer last year in Mikey Keene. Did play quite a fair bit through 83 passes, had 72 and almost a 0.5% completion percentage, 647 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 interception to his name last season. Was a pretty good player for this Knights team, but your starter in the quarterback room does come back, and that is John Rhys Plumlee. 2,586 yards on 63% completion percentage, 14 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions last year. Touchdown to interception ratio can get better. I believe that is true with John Rhys Plumlee. Oh, and I would be forgotten to mention if he was not also the team's leading rusher last season. 862 yards and 11 touchdowns on the ground for John Rhys Plumlee last season. He should be that starter. If that touchdown to interception ratio can improve, he's got a lot of weapons to work with at this program. And then you also do get a transfer coming in by way of South Florida, the old rival of the Central Florida Knights, in Timmy McClain. So should be a very, very interesting quarterback situation there. Again, John Rhys Plumlee, maybe they don't like his passing and maybe McClain steps in, maybe someone else, but I figure that John Rhys Plumlee should be that quarterback throughout the entirety of 2023. When you look at the running back room, Isaiah Bowser is going to be gone. He was that team's second leading rusher and the top rusher among running backs last year, although not by much. 205 carries, 799 yards. It's only around 4 yards per carry, but did have 16 touchdowns on the ground, was very valuable to this team, and you are going to lose a big piece in Isaiah Bowser. However, you do return R.J. Harvey, who had almost the same amount of yards on almost half the carries, 118 carries, 796 yards. That's over 6.5 yards per carry, but 5 touchdowns on the ground for him. So R.J. Harvey probably going to end up being that feature back for the Knights in 2023. And you also do return Johnny Richardson as well, 370 yards for him last season. And then DeMarcus Bowman, I believe, should have a bigger role on this team than what was than what he had last year. Wide receiver, you do lose Ryan O'Keefe, did have 222 rushing yards, but in receiving was the team's second leading receiver, 725 yards, 5 touchdowns, led the team with 73 catches. You also lose Joey Gatewood, Jordan Johnson, some depth pieces in that wide receiver room from seasons past. When you take a look at who's coming back, Javon Baker, 796 yards and 5 touchdowns to this team last season, was the team's leading receiver. Kobe Hudson was third on that list with 641 yards and 7 touchdowns. That led the team, and Xavier Townsend was a little ways down, 23 catches, 127 yards on the season for him last year. And there are a lot of wide receiver transfers coming in. Trent Whitmore comes over from Florida. You got Chauncey Magwood coming over from Kentucky. And in my opinion, the most notable one, a little bit under the radar, Corey Gamage comes over from Marshall. Originally went to Purdue, pretty much left West Lafayette as soon as he got there. The mistake I made in my Purdue video. And he is with UCF. Of course, now those transfers on the board just didn't have room for him. Tight end room looks like this. Kamar Gamble is gone, but you return your 4th leading receiver in Alec Holler at 276 yards and a touchdown to his name last season. And on the offensive line, Ryan Ryan Swoboda, Samuel Jackson are gone. You return Lokahai Powell. I probably said that last name wrong, and I apologize. But you do get some transfers coming over, and a lot of them. Amari Knight, Bula Schmidt, Marcellus Marshall, and some more that I did not mention on this list as well. Defensively, what can we expect from the Knights? Well, Anthony Montalvo, my apologies, is going to be gone off this team. 42 tackles and a sack and a half for him last year. However, there's a lot of great talent coming back to this defensive line. Josh Celisar, have you said that last name again? I apologize. 53 tackles, 3 sacks last year, tied for second on the team with Ricky Barber, who also comes back. 48 tackles, 3 sacks for him last year, and Tremont Morris Brash led the team with 6 sacks and was tied with Celisar for those 53 tackles. So really good talent on the defensive line comes back. In the linebacker room, Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste is going to be gone, had 52 tackles and a sack last year. Was the team's 6th leading tackler by tackles, although, again, not far behind a lot of those guys. Jason Johnson, who was your leading tackler, a whopping 129 tackles, more than double what anyone else had on the team. Great that you get him back. Walter Yates and Cam Moore are some other names that are going to be back on this linebacking group. Should be good group for the Knights. And defensive back-wise, you get a lot of talent that leaves here. Devon Wilson, 4 pass defended, led the team with 3 interceptions last year. He's going to be gone, as well as Kobe Perry, Devontae Brown, and Justin Hodges. You do return Corey Thornton, Brandon Adams, and Jarvis Ware, and a lot of defensive back transfers coming to this program as well. Jamaric Morris, Jure Wilson, and Fred Davis are all coming in to this program, among some more that I did not mention there as well. There's a lot of talent here on this Knights team. Offensively, again, if John Rhys Plumlee can improve that touchdown to interception ratio, he's a very solid quarterback. And even though this team does lose a lot of key contributors, especially in that secondary, this is going to be a team that you're going to want to watch out for in the Big 12 Conference this year. Your head coach is Gus Malzahn, offensive coordinator Darren Hinshaw, and your defensive coordinator is Addison Williams. As we take a look at the Knights' 2023 football schedule, hey, you know how this goes, but in case you don't, any game that's underlined is a home game, and any game in italics or the slanted text is a game the Knights will play on the road. Any game in green is a game where I think the Knights will win easily. Any game in yellow is, whoa, the other team's going to put up a fight, or it's a very close competitive game, but the Knights are going to be able to win, and red is a loss. So without further ado, let's predict Central Florida Knights in 2023. Kent State's going to have a really hard time fielding a football team this year, and of course that is an exaggeration, but everyone poached them from the portal. A lot of talent is leaving that team, and UCF should be able to run over the Golden Flashes with ease. And then, very, very interesting non-conference game here against the Boise State Broncos. These two teams have faced off in the past. They've been some pretty good games. I expect this one to be a really good game as well. You know, Boise State, really, really good team out of the Mountain West Conference. They got a lot of talent coming back on that team, but I think UCF is the more talented team of the two. UCF is now in a power conference for a reason. They have earned it. They have played really, really good football in this era of the college football game. I think they're going to go on the road, and while Boise State gives them quite a challenge here, I think it's going to be a very back and forth competitive game. I think UCF, with all their playmakers on offense and defensively, especially in that front seven, I think they're able to make some plays, come up with some big stops, and they're going to be able to beat the Boise State Broncos. They will also be beating the Villanova Wildcats, pretty solid team out of the FCS ranks, but they will be no match for the Central Florida Knights. Now you get into Big 12 play. Your first game as a Big 12 opponent, well, they didn't really do you any favors here, did they? You got to go up against the Big 12 champs in the Kansas State Wildcats. It's a team that does lose quite a bit in that secondary, and they do lose Deuce Vaughn and some other names. Malik Knowles gone as well, but other than that, I mean, Will Howard coming back at quarterback. There's still a lot of good pieces offensively and defensively, especially in that front seven. Yeah, some key contributors are gone, but there's generally a lot to like about that Kansas State team this year. I think the Wildcats are going to be a very good football team. I think they can push for a Big 12 championship appearance yet again, and I just don't think Central Florida matches up well with them. I think Kansas State's going to be a very, very good football team, so I got the Central Florida Knights getting their first loss of 2023 there with that Kansas State team. When you take a look at this game against Baylor, if you watch my Baylor video, you know I got them having a bounce-back season this year. I really like what the Bears have this year. Blake Shapen is coming back. There's a lot of talent for him offensively, especially if Blake Shapen could improve in that quarterback realm. And while, again, some key contributors are gone on defense, there is a lot of talent returning to that defense that I really like. I think Dave Arand is a very good head coach. We've seen him make some really good turnarounds before. Again, it was a disappointing season for Baylor last year. I think they're going to bounce back nicely. I think the Knights are going to be very, very competitive in this game, but I do think they're going to end up falling short to the Baylor Bears at home in the Bounce House. Could easily be a game I could see them winning there as well. But I got the Bears pulling off maybe a little bit of a shocker on the road in the Bounce House against the Central Florida Knights. However, I do have the Knights getting their first Big 12 win as a member, of course, of the conference against the Kansas Jayhawks. Now, do not count out this Kansas team with Jalen Daniels and a lot of talent on that offense. It's going to be a very scary team to play. However, that defense, while it's got a lot of good talent on it, needs some work from where it was last year. I think the Knights are going to be able to hang a lot of offensive yards and points on this Kansas defense, at least to where we sit right now. So UCF will be able to beat the Kansas Jayhawks there in Week 6. And then you get your bye week, and then it's one of the big boys that are leaving for the SEC here after this season. The Oklahoma Sooners are up next for UCF. I think this is going to be a very, very competitive game. I like the talent that the Knights have. And again, with as much talent that is on this offense here for Central Florida, especially with John Rice Plumlee at quarterback and that wide receiver room is filled with a lot of talent as well. They can take it to this Oklahoma defense that had a lot of struggles last year. And while I do think that defense is going to improve, it's got to show some significant improvement from where it was last season. They were just statistically bad in a lot of categories. However, that Oklahoma offense is going to put up some points this year. They're going to be scary, and I think that's what wins them the game here. Very tight, close-knit game. I think UCF is not going to go down without a fight, but Oklahoma at the end of the day walks away victorious. West Virginia is the team here. Look, that you lose JT Daniels, a lot of other key contributors on that team, and I just outright don't think Neil Brown is the right guy for the job. I do not think that West Virginia is going to be a very good football team this year. Again, you have to replace your quarterback in JT Daniels, who was underwhelming at best for that West Virginia team anyway. I got UCF being able to pull off that win at home. And here's a game that's very interesting. American athletic foes coming over to the Big 12 to play in a brand new conference. You got to go on the road against Cincinnati. I've already highlighted my prediction, and I know what Knights fans are going to say. We're not losing to Cincinnati. They're not as talented, but Cincinnati's going to pull off some wins this year. I think they're going to be a competitive team in the Big 12 Conference, even with all they lost. Luke Fickell going to be gone at head coach, but you don't get a bad guy coming in Scott Satterfield. Didn't make sense to a whole lot of people, including myself, but he's not a bad head coach by any means. I think that Bearcats team is going to be competitive, and they're going to pull off some wins in the Big 12 Conference this year where they maybe shouldn't. Going on the road to play in Nippert Stadium is always a tough thing to do. Those Cincinnati fans, I think, are going to be passionate this year, and I think Cincinnati is going to pull their way to a little upset of the Central Florida Knights in Week 10. However, in Week 11, I do have the Knights bouncing back, a close win against Oklahoma State. I really like what Oklahoma State's got as a team this year. Again, you never count out Coach Gundy. That's a team that, hey, I just said I like what they have, but there are a lot of questions on that team. Defensively, they're losing a lot of talent. They got ravaged by the portal in pretty much every aspect, and Spencer Sanders, that starting quarterback for oh so long, is gone. Again, just with all the talent leaving, I don't know that they're able to fully replace all of it, but Coach Gundy's going to have that team ready. I think the Knights will go to a pretty solid, comfortable win, but Oklahoma State's going to make it tough on them. When you go on the road against Texas Tech, that's a team that's got a lot of hype building around it, and I believe it. I am on the Texas Tech hype train. If quarterback situation can improve with Tyler Shuck or whoever happens to start, that is going to be a very, very good football team. They got a lot of good talent in the wide receiver room, in the running back room, and the defense has got some good pieces as well. I don't see Central Florida. I think that's a bad matchup. I think Texas Tech going to be able to win that game, but UCF going to be able to beat Houston, another former American Athletic foe. Houston loses a lot of talent from last year. Clayton Tune, Alton McCaskill, who again didn't play last year because of an ACL. Nathaniel Dell, a lot of talent gone. So overall, I got the Knights sitting here at 7-5. Not bad for their first season in the Big 12. But I think this team is definitely ready to play with the big boys in this conference. Let me know your thoughts on the Knights in the comment section below. And as always, remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. See all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.